Hello and welcome to this episode of How to Run a Successful Business and Still Have a Life. My name is Stacey Morgan and today's episode is brought to you by Simply Business Accelerator. In November, we're going to be talking all things community and culture. If you would like to find a way to create an incredible community that is part of your business and a great culture that your team is really proud of, then you can join us for Simply Business Accelerator and step up in terms of your community and culture. It's a program that happens over 2 days. It's happening November 5th and 12th. It's 2 3-hour coaching sessions. They're group coaching, so don't stress. You're not going to be put on the spot, but you are going to be made to think about your business and the impact that you're having with your business on your team and on your community. So I'd love you to join us. You can enroll now at simplystacymorgan.com. Today's episode is all about priorities. And as a leader, we often find that we have a lot of expectation around the people that we're leading. A lot of roles have a lot of things that need to get done, and everyone seems to be busy every day. And so often as leaders and managers, we can go, okay, we're doing okay. Things are okay. Things are all right. But often, if we are not really clear on what our priorities are in the business, if we're not really clear on people's roles and responsibilities, then that is where tension comes up. That is where people get frustrated. And that is where, the problems start and the drama starts that as a manager and leader in a business, you don't want to have. So today we're going to be talking about prioritizing and getting really clear on what our priorities are and how that ascertains to each of our roles, including our role as a leader and manager in our business. If you're not currently leading people, then do not worry, because I'm sure you have people around you, and I'm sure that you have a role in which you need to make sure that you have really clear priorities as well. So stick with us. Now, when it comes to ensuring that you have a team that all get along, that are all working really collaboratively, really well together, the most important part of the glue that holds all of that together is making sure that everybody is really clear on what their role is and on what their priorities should be. There is nothing that is more frustrating in the workplace than people who are always relying on other people to be able to get them to the next step of what they need to do, and having those people always waiting and keeping those people waiting and stopping them from being productive. Not only is that a drain on your resources in terms of your human resources, having to solve those problems, but it's a drain on your financial resources when it comes to the business as well, because we want to make sure that our people are being productive as much as possible in order to maximize the human resources that we have in our business. And that sounds a bit clinical, but it is, incredibly true. There's nothing worse than paying top dollar for an employee who is really unsure of what they are there to do. You want to make sure that everybody knows exactly what their roles are and how each of the roles feed into each other in order to be all of the cogs of the wheel and keep all of the cogs in the wheel in your business running really smoothly. So often, as a manager and as a leader, people don't really have a clear understanding of what you expect of them. And so it's our job to make sure that we are really clear and that we have really robust processes in place that are measuring how everybody is going in terms of fulfilling their roles and responsibilities. Of course, you've heard the old saying that wherever focus goes, the business grows. So if you find that up until this point, you haven't been really focused on output, if you haven't been focused on where the business is going and how everybody is contributing to getting it there, then this may be really new to you, and that's okay. But once you start focusing on those outcomes, on the things that are going to really help grow the business, you will see the business grow, and that will be inspiring, not just for yourself, but for your team as well. And that is just, another thing that's going to help get everybody on the same page and everybody singing from the song sheet and everybody moving forward and doing their best to grow the business. So when it comes to leading and managing people and being really clear on the priorities that you have for them, it's really important to be able to paint a really big picture, to be able to paint done what the job is, what the job enrolls, what success looks like in that role. So if you have people that are reporting to you that perhaps need to have things done by a deadline, that perhaps need to reach sales targets, that have things that must be done in order for other people to get their job done, then being able to paint that picture for them, give them a look at it's not just important that you get this spreadsheet done for you being able to tick that off your list, but it's really important for you to know that once you've done that, this other person in the office needs to be able to access that so that they can then go and do their job successfully. So often we don't connect the dots for people. And this may sound, really basic. And as their leaders and managers, we sometimes kind of roll our eyes and go, how did they not figure that out? But, sometimes they don't. And sometimes that's part of our role. That's part of us being able to teach them and to lead them and to manage them and to educate them on what the bigger picture looks like, so that everybody on your team not only has a clear understanding of what they are doing, but also how that feeds into what the entire business is doing as a whole. I know for a long time, I was really focused on the numbers in my business. I was focused on what our sales targets needed to be, what we needed to hit, how we were going to do that. And whilst I would talk about that with my team, I don't really think I did a good job of being really clear on how they could actually contribute to making that better. And once we made that shift, once we started to talk about the different systems, and we put systems and processes in place, and we started to talk about the way that their roles impacted on the outcome, on these numbers and on these targets, there was a complete shift in the business. Once we started incentivizing staff and saying, okay, these are the targets that we're trying to get to. These are the 15 things that you could do that would possibly help that. And if we do this together as a group, then we will get X. It was like there's a huge shift in my business and a huge shift in people's understanding of what their role entailed. And, you might think about that and think, okay, well, then everyone, if they hear that, oh my gosh, they're going to think about pressure. They're going to think, oh, this is, really relying on me. And, some people might think that that's going to be the end of the world and you're not going to see people be as productive. What I found in practice was the exact opposite. What I found in practice was that people became competitive amongst each other. People would rally behind each other. If they could see somebody else was kind of struggling a little bit, they would step in and they would help them, and they would give them advice, and they would, help boost their confidence in order for them to be able to do their role really well. We started sharing ideas. A lot more people were saying what was working for them and what had worked in the past and what worked for this particular family or this particular customer. And, try this with another customer, or, always try this when you're dealing with this person. And there was really great banter and really great conversation that was built around that would never have happened if we hadn't all focused on what these outcomes were and what these metrics were, these targets that we were trying to reach. And so I encourage you to be really clear with your team, especially if you're managing people, really clear with what your expectations are, really clear on what your priorities are within their roles. So, a job description and a list of roles and responsibilities will have 20 things on it. It's really important for you as the manager and the leader to communicate which of those things are a priority, so that when they're sitting at their desk or when they walk into work, they know that, the bins need to be taken out all the time. If that your priority is for, every time somebody walks into your shop, for the overwhelming smell of the diffuser of, your special signature scent is your number one priority. If they're not taking the bins out, then that's going to distract from your number one priority. And, then no one's going to be happy. That's a crazy example, I know, but it's a really important thing to think about. What are your priorities as the leader and manager? What are the things that because it's your business often, what are the things that are really going to move the needle, that are really important, that are non-negotiable? Are you communicating that with your team? Are you making sure that they understand that when they sit down at their desk, that priority one is getting back to those families, or priority one is getting that spreadsheet filled in? Because if you're not making that really clear, then people aren't going to be able to achieve what you want them to achieve. And when people aren't doing their job well, that leads to job dissatisfaction. And then it's going to lead to turnover. And then you're going to end up, having to recruit, and that costs money. And then you're going to be behind. So you want to, wherever possible, be really clear about your expectations, be really clear about your priorities, so that everybody on your team fully understands their roles and responsibilities, can, have the best chance of being able to do their job and do their job really, really well. And that everybody on the team really understands how they personally have the ability to filter in, how their job is going to filter in and help move the business forward on a day-to-day basis. That stuff is super important, but it's often stuff that we just assume everybody knows. We assume that everybody understands, and then we get really cranky when it doesn't happen the way that it wants to happen. For us, it was really important that we started reporting to each other in a group setting on a fortnightly basis. So every 2 weeks, we would get together as a team and we would talk surface level about how the business was going. And that was great. It, built team camaraderie. We could check in, see how everyone's doing. We'd go around the circle and everyone would give their highlights. And then we'd talk about, housekeeping stuff. And then that would be it. What we do now is we talk about the outcomes. We talk about the numbers. We talk about how close we are to targets. We talk about whether we're behind or we're ahead. We talk about, certain customers and how we can better serve them and how we can make sure that their customer experience is going to be exceptional. And I've found by talking about those outcomes and being really clear on those priorities and doing that in a group setting where everybody understands, okay, for this week, we are really focusing on this, has made a really big difference in my business. So I encourage you to think about yourself as a leader and a manager. Are there certain things that you assume that your team knows? Are there certain things that you keep in the back of your mind because, you think that everybody should know that, but perhaps you need to articulate a little bit more clearly to your team? Are there things that, would be really valuable for your team to know in order to do their job better? And are the roles and responsibilities in your business really clearly outlined? And are you measuring them on a regular basis in order to give your staff and give your team an understanding of where they're at? That's a lot for one episode, I know, but it is really important. And it's really been something I've been thinking about a lot over the last couple of weeks because I've seen a really big difference in our business since we've been, really sharpening the metrics and really focusing on those things that we really want to move forward in the business. Wherever the focus goes, the business grows. So where is your focus and where will your focus be over the next week or as we head into the end of the year? This is a really important time, not just for setting yourself up for next year, but making sure that you finish well and finish strong. What are you going to focus on? What are going to be your priorities and how are you going to communicate that to your team over the next couple of weeks? If you want to join us to talk about all things team and community, you can do so at Simply Business Accelerator. Today's episode is brought to you by Simply Business Accelerator, which you can enroll in now at simplystacymorgan.com. If you're enjoying these episodes, I'd love you to take a screenshot and throw it on your Insta story. Tag me at Simply Stacey Morgan on Instagram. I would love you to share this episode with your business besties. Perhaps you have people on your team. Perhaps you have people that are also leading other people and leading teams of people. Perhaps you'd like to share it with them as well. I would so love it if you would. And also if you would leave us a rating or review on Apple Podcasts, that would be great too. We're talking about all things priorities and all things, to not get distracted by at the moment because we want to stay focused. We want to stay focused from now and through to the end of the year. It's so super important. And I really appreciate you taking the time to listen to these episodes and to take on even just a bite-sized piece of information and then implement it in your business. I think it will go a long way. I know that you're very busy and I appreciate your time. Thank you so much for joining us and I will talk to you next week.